Hello, everyone. Hello. And thank you so much for joining me today for our weekly Europass talk at the Europass Teacher Academy here in Florence, Italy. I'm so happy to be here with you. My name is 𝘀𝗲𝗹𝗳𝗀𝗋. I'm a teacher trainer here at Europass, a professional counselor and educator. And I'm a person who is endlessly curious about all things having to do with education. And I love children. And I think if you're watching today, it's because we have a lot in common. And I just want to make sure that I have everything all set up here. I think if you're watching today. And thank you to my marketing team at Europass for helping me put all of this together every week. And I'm excited because today we are now at June 9th, okay? Now, June 9th means that we are at the end of the school year for many of you. You are right there. Some of you are ending this week. Some of you still have another couple of weeks to go, depending on if you, what country you live in. And then, of course, there are lots of our students who are preparing for end of the year exams. So this is a really big moment. And it's certainly been an incredible year for us. I would say that we have learned a lot, and we've also aged a little bit, you know, a few more gray hairs. I don't know about you, but yes, that's a bit of what I've noticed. And today, the topic that I'm going to discuss here with you is stress recovery in the summer of 2021. I want to talk about stress recovery because, yes, we do as teachers, we have, according to, you know, the eyes of the outside world, for people who don't work in education, they often think, you know, that teachers work 10 months out of the year, and they get this big long vacation, and, you know, that it's such a great deal. And there is a famous Italian psychotherapist, 𝘀𝗲𝗹𝗪𝗀𝗪, who works with teachers in helping them with their teacher stress. And he claims that the two months off that we have in the summer, the 2 months off, let's say, he says that it's not really holiday, it's convalescence. What do you think about that? You agree with me, teachers? It's a little bit of convalescence. And the reason why we say that is that truly teachers are doing at least 12 months of work in 10 months. And this year, it's been, as you know, you've lived it. It's been absolutely a roller coaster. It's actually been a year and a half of a roller coaster, and with lots of difficulties that we never could have imagined. And so today, first off, I want to say that we are here for a celebration because we are at the end of the school year. It's been challenging. You found creative solutions to unimaginable challenges. Who would have ever guessed? Who would have ever imagined all the things that you have learned how to do in the conditions that you've learned to do them in? You've discovered new ways of reaching and teaching your students. You have persevered even in the face of risking illness, because let's face it, lots of teachers here in Italy, for example, teachers basically from ages, you know, anyone that was working with children from preschool all the way through the first year of middle school. So up until, say, 11-year-old students, they have done all of their work in person, and we had no idea how that was going to go. And, you know, teaching an entire year with a mask on and trying to make sure, lots of quarantining. And then, of course, we also had a lot of students, especially students in secondary schools, who disappeared. They dropped out. They said, listen, I can't do this anymore. Or maybe they said, I'll try again next year, but this was a big struggle. And we also, as educators, have gone from a situation where public opinion has gone from, in the beginning, calling teachers, today's heroes, along with, the doctors and nurses and all of the frontline workers, to actually expecting educators to perform miracles that were not really in our grasp. So for all of you watching, let's just take a moment to celebrate, to think about all that you have accomplished. And you know what I say is, even though you didn't always get it right, you got it done. You got it done. All right. Think about the moments that you were proud of, when you were brave, when you were flexible, when you were resourceful, and when you were kind, but kind to others, and most importantly, to yourself. Why do I talk about that? Well, this is going to be a big part of what we're talking about today. All right. So we know, and thank you. I see some people arriving here. Welcome, welcome. Please feel free to write your name and where you're from in the comment section. And this is going to be quite interactive. And so I'm going to ask you to please write some things in the comment section, because we really want to hear about what your experiences have been. Now, I want to know if you have noticed a crescendo of stressful feelings that accumulated. Okay. This was happening before the pandemic. And, but now I think that it's even more important to focus on what happened to these stressful feelings. These were feelings that accumulated and could not necessarily go away just when you had a long weekend, or when the Christmas holidays came, or the Easter holidays, or whatever it is that you are celebrating in your country. Maybe you spent your Sundays, instead of resting, you felt that you really needed to spend that time preparing lessons, or maybe you had to correct. Maybe instead you spent your Sundays in bed with a migraine headache, anticipating that Monday with a great sense of dread. Okay. Maybe you stayed up too late on too many nights as you finished what you were doing. Maybe you ate cookies for dinner and pizza for breakfast. Didn't really eat very well. Maybe your family sometimes was complaining that you, even when you were with them, you weren't really with them. You weren't really present. You were kind of absent-minded, because you were worried, because you were thinking about the students that weren't showing up for school, or you were trying to create the perfect tutorial, or you were maybe answering 57 emails because you uploaded the wrong file by accident, and then got all the emails saying, wait, teacher, that doesn't make any sense. And you're like, oh my gosh. And you had to do everything twice. All right. I mean, did any of these things happen to you? Or was it just people I know and me? I don't know. Maybe your Wi-Fi kept going out, right, when you were trying to give them a test. Or you woke up early one morning because you said, oh, I have to do something good for myself. So you'd wake up early, set the alarm early, say, I'm going to go for a nice walk. And then you would make the mistake of opening your emails before you went out for the walk. And then you discover a really angry email from a parent saying, what have you done? And my child, and you're not paying enough attention. And then it just ruined your day. And you no longer listen, Ginger thinks the same thing. It ruined her day too. And so I think what happens in these situations is that this is when you probably fantasize a lot about opening that flower shop, flower shop. These flowers, everyone's happy when they come to buy flowers, and it smells so good. It smells a lot better than teenagers do. That's for sure. And then it's also a time where, if you're in a flower shop, it's quiet. No one's talking back. No one has to go to the bathroom. Nobody forgets to bring their book. So maybe in all of this frustration, okay, I would like you to think about this teacher stress. Right? Let me help my dog here understand that she is not in any imminent danger. So we need to think about teacher stress as almost like if it were a physical problem. Because if we have a physical problem, we are much more likely to pay attention. For example, so imagine that you, yes, I see Myrta Thomas. Oh, very good, from Dalmatia. Excellent. You say, I am a survivor together with my students. Yes, you should be proud. You made it through. So I was saying, imagine if we thought about teacher stress as though it were a physical problem. Okay. Imagine that you have a job where that requires you to lift very heavy objects all the time. Okay, heavy boxes and heavy objects. And of course, even if you are quite strong, after a while, you might start noticing some back pain. And you know how that is with back pain. It's if you don't get help for it, it doesn't just go away. You might take some pain medication and you keep on going because you have to go to work, right? And what happens though is the more you pick up these heavy boxes, the more your back hurts. So you adjust your body and you're trying to compensate for that pain that you have in your back, the one that even keeps you up at night. Sometimes you can't get a comfortable position. And what happens is after a while, if you keep pushing through this pain, then next thing you know, you feel pain in your hip or pain in your knee, or you realize that in your neck. And that pain actually releases a lot of stress hormones in your body. And it's like a poison at that point. And so you keep, taking medicine to cover up that pain. And but then one day, a wonderful thing happens. Wonderful. You go on holiday. Yes, you go on holiday and you can finally rest your back. And you haven't gone to a chiropractor or an osteopath, or you have not gone for a massage. You just kind of keep powering through. I mean, would you do that, or would you stop and call a specialist? Would you call your doctor? Would you let him know or her know? How is this any different when we are accumulating a tremendous amount of stress? You go on vacation, you rest a bit, you feel better, but then you go right back to that same job. And you haven't strengthened those muscles. You still haven't consulted any doctor. You haven't done any physical therapy, okay? And guess what? Sooner or later, within a few weeks, you're going to feel that pain again. And so this is why I want to talk to you today about summer recovery, okay? Because now it's absolutely like you're feeling, as Myrta said, you're a survivor, right? And you know that you're now going to get this reward, let's say, of some rest. However, you know that if we don't take care of some things now, you will go back to school in September feeling pretty good, pretty energized, rested. But if you fall into the same habits and the same traps, you may find yourself already in the middle of October saying, oh my gosh, I need a vacation, okay? But we get one life. It's very important to take care of ourselves, because if we don't do it, no one else can do it for us, because only we know what we really need. So, all right, for those of you who are watching, I see that I have some people here, and I want to know, how do you tend to manifest stress? If you feel comfortable doing it, write it in the chat box. How does your body manifest it? Do you get headaches? Do you get stomach aches? Do you get heart palpitations? Do you find that you become, that you suffer from insomnia, where you can't sleep at night? Do you find that you do things like you get irritable? You get a little snappy with the people around you. that you feel you can have a little brain fog. How does that kind of stress show up in your life? Because our bodies are very, very smart, and they will find a way. If we are sort of ignoring what that stress is, our bodies will find a way to communicate, because our brain is part of our body. They're not separate things. Everything in our body is being somehow driven by our brain activity. So it's all connected. So those headaches that you think, oh, I'm just a person who suffers from headaches. Are you sure about that? You get a lot of headaches even in the summer? Or do they seem to go away? Do you suffer from a lot of like eczema or things? I mean, these are real things. I'm not trying to say that you are imagining them. They are real physical manifestations, but that are greatly aggravated by stress. So let me know in the chat box how stress seems to show up in your body. And when you know that you have kind of like that red alert going on that you really need to pay attention to. So the problem with this chronic stress is that over time, you could slip into what is considered a really serious condition called burnout. Now, burnout obviously is something that we've been talking a lot about this year when we're talking about frontline workers in general. This is a big problem in all of the helping professions. So healthcare, social workers, and of course, psychologists, counselors, and teachers. So what does burnout look like? Burnout is emotional exhaustion, where you feel extremely tired, you have a short temper, maybe you're even less patient than usual, you are irritable, you are easily upset, okay, or you are moved to tears very easily, okay, so you're emotional, you feel emotionally unstable. And in a way that is, let's say, constant over time. And then what can also happen with is that after a moment of emotional exhaustion and this kind of acting out emotionally with irritability and maybe crying or anger, what can happen is then you can kind of shut down and not even really express a lot of emotions. And maybe you just want to sleep a lot. You kind of depersonalize your job a little bit. You feel you might feel negative, increased negative feelings about your work as a teacher. You don't enjoy it anymore. You're not motivated the way you used to be. You're not getting as excited over those, successful lessons and those fun things. And when the kids write you a little note or they draw you a picture, or the teenagers, stop and want to talk with you, and it just doesn't seem to give you that joy anymore. And what can happen is it can really increase feelings of cynicism. You can be less involved. All of you teachers, maybe you don't have this problem, but maybe someone in your school does. You can really see when a colleague is going through a difficult time because they walk through the halls and they don't look at anyone, okay? They stick close to the wall. They walk straight through. They don't make eye contact. They don't say hello. It's almost like they just wish they were invisible, okay? Of course, some people are just very shy, but usually in a school community, we know each other. It's normal. The kids, they say hello to you. And there are teachers that at that point, instead of seeing students as students, they almost see them as a kind of an enemy. You ever seen that before? And then you can just feel incompetent and inefficient. This is very common in burnout. When you're having symptoms of burnout, is that you feel unsuitable for this job. And teachers, I've seen it. Teachers who are truly incredible professionals actually get to the point where they're so discouraged they can't even see their worth. And this is why today I want to think about, not only do you get an opportunity to rest, well-deserved, but you also get an opportunity to kind of do a reset on how you manage this stress. You want to do that with me? Okay. Gonna give you some ideas on how you can do that this summer. It's not an easy thing like, oh, it's just as simple as. It's going to require some effort, but I guarantee you, if you spend the time this summer focusing on these things, you just might face the next school year feeling a bit differently about your work. So one thing I'm going to start with is that small, I love this. I say this every week, that small, possible, specific activities, things that we can do are so much better than making some enormous decision, because change occurs and we can stick with it when it's slow and steady. And so small daily efforts have actually been proven to be much more effective than waiting for that big annual vacation. Okay. And according to Kristin Neff, who is basically an expert on self-compassion, it's called. And okay, it's kind of a branch of mindfulness and a way of taking care of yourself in a way, being aware of your self-talk, and just overall being a little nicer to yourself. She talks about, she's a professor of human development at the University of Texas in Austin. And her research has given evidence that self-compassionate people definitely have, there's a big difference between being self-compassionate and self-critical. And she was able to actually do physical tests on these people and see that they had lower stress hormone rates. So they had lower cortisol levels, and their heart rate variability was much better. They were not always with this very high heart rate. Okay. So this is what we're going to do today. And I see some people rolling in, and I'm happy to see you. Let me know how you're feeling. Okay. How are you feeling now at the end of this year? So activity number 1, you have a pen and paper with you? Just grab something so you can write something down. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to have an honest conversation with yourself about what your stressors are. Because if we don't know what it is exactly, we really can't go after it. What happens is we tend to speak in these really broad blanket statements and say things like, teaching has just become impossible, or I can't wait to get, to the holidays, I'm exhausted. But that is, what brought you there exactly? What do you think the problem is? Take that piece of paper and write down every single thing that has weighed on you this year. Write it all. Just boom, get it out on the paper. Don't worry, even if it's like little things, like the photocopier kept breaking, or my Wi-Fi connection, was unstable. That's actually a big thing. That was a big thing this year. Or things like, I was getting emails at 3 a.m. and I felt guilty if I didn't open them. Things about, I got really tired of trying to give a lesson to 25 black boxes because nobody would turn on their cameras, or even for teachers that were teaching in person, saying it was exhausting, not being able to touch the kids, not being able to really enjoy them in the way that I would normally would, and having to say, put your mask on, pull your mask up, don't touch them, blah, 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 all the time. And it was like yet another problem to add, policing their behavior. So get all of it out. Oh, I see Marta. It's nice to see you again. Hi, Marta. Hi, Elisabetta. Thank you for joining. And so we're talking about our stressors. And when think about all of the things that were a problem. And the idea is to, no matter how big or small, put them all on paper, because you get them out from inside your body out into something that becomes visible. It can have a name, and it's something that you can then even share with someone if you want to. But the important thing is to get it outside of you. Then, when you have emptied yourself of all of it, notice how you feel. Notice when you're looking at it, I mean, do you feel worse? Do you feel relieved? Do you feel a little lighter? Then leave it aside and get another piece of paper. On this other piece of paper, you are going to then write all the aspects of your job that you enjoyed this year. Things that happened, things that you learned, things that made you feel capable, that made you feel proud, that made you laugh. Okay. It might be a short list. I hope for your sake that it's a long list, but it might be short. Doesn't matter. If it's a short list, doesn't matter. The important thing, though, is to get it out there once again. Notice after how that feels, to recall the things that worked, the things that you feel proud of, because they're there too. And this is going to be part of your rehabilitation. All right. Then put both lists away. And you come back to them later, I would say hours later, even the next day. You go back, especially to your first list, and you look at it with fresh eyes. Fresh eyes, and you say, what seems to be the biggest problem out of all of these things that I wrote? Some of them are little, some of them are big, but do I notice any connections between them? Are there any patterns? For example, do you notice that most of your problems were technological? Or do you notice that most of your problems were organizational or relational? Okay, having to do with, problems with colleagues or with students or with families. Notice if there's a macro category that really bothered you in particular. Okay, that's where we're going to work first, because we can't solve all the problems, but we need to find out what is the biggest stressor, and maybe on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the most stressful, maybe that thing is a 10, maybe it's an 11, 12. And the key is we want to learn ways to bring that down to at least a 6, something more manageable. It won't disappear, but how can we manage it better? Okay, so I'll give you some examples. Like, do you also find, I don't know, did you get enough sleep? Because not getting enough sleep not only affects our mood, but it affects our metabolism. Can you believe it? You cannot metabolize your food well, and it affects your cognitive function. So if you get that brain fog, or you're feeling confused, or you're forgetting things, the first thing you can do for yourself is try to sleep more. And you might say, I don't have time. You have to figure that one out. You have to prioritize sleep. In a talk that I gave a little over a year ago, I talked about making a pie graph. And in the pie graph, you divide it into 3 parts, 8, 8, 8. 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, and 8 hours of non-work. Now, none of us has 8 hours of non-work. I know it. But it's important to actually think about, well, what proportion is it? Is it 6 hours of sleep? And is it 12 hours of work? Okay, because we got something wrong here if that's what's happening. So the next thing you're going to do, once you have identified your major stressor, is you are then going to ask yourself, if it's a relational problem. For example, today I was working with this wonderful group of teachers, and one of them was talking about the fact that she, when she was in the beginning of her career, she had a lot of trouble saying no. Because, they would ask her to do things. She was very capable. She didn't want to say no. But the important thing, a lot of us have trouble saying no, but the important thing is to ask, why do I have problems saying no? What pushes me to say yes? What pushes me to, what is it that drives me? Because you are trying to satisfy a need of yours. And if the need in this case is to please people so they're not disappointed in you, then maybe we need to sit down and have a nice conversation about what it means to try so hard to please other people that you are overextended. And in the end, you will make mistakes and you will forget things. And then you're going to not only be overextended, but you're also going to be upset with yourself. Maybe you're an enthusiast. Okay, you're an enthusiast who gets excited about new projects and jobs. Maybe that's why you say yes. And so in this case, it's a different conversation that you will have with yourself. It's that it's great to be enthusiastic. And because I want to maintain that enthusiasm, before I say yes, I'm actually going to tell the person, thank you so much for thinking of me. I appreciate your trust. And let me sleep on it, and I will give you an answer tomorrow. So you slow down that part of your brain that wants to always say yes to everything because you're an enthusiast. Okay. I think it's important, once again, to realize what is the reason behind it, because then you can start asking yourself, why do I do this? What purpose does it serve? What need of mine am I trying to satisfy? Because when you identify that, then you start the negotiation with yourself about how to take that stress from 10 plus down to a much more acceptable 5 or 6. Okay. Another reason why people tend to say yes is that they deep down think that they are the only one that could probably do it right. This is an interesting one. So what happens when you down deep kind of think that you're the only one that could do it right is that you're not only taking on responsibility for things that are not yours, you are actually, you're not allowing others, in this case, the students, to learn to be autonomous. You are in the way. Or if you don't let any of your colleagues do certain things because, they're not going to do a good job, but they will never learn how to do it if they don't experience it. Because the whole point of that is, if you have to be in the center of everything, what happens the day you're not there? Have people been able to exercise those muscles and really learn how to do things on their own? If your problem is time management, if you notice that the problem is that you're not going to bed on time, you're not eating your meals at the right time, you are constantly feeling behind, there are lots of apps that can help you. 2 months ago, I had Professor Petridis come on here. We had a fantastic conversation all about different time management strategies. If you missed it, please go back into our video history on the Europass Teacher Academy Facebook page, and you'll find this fantastic interview where he talks about things like the how do you create a much healthier work-life balance. He talks about the Pomodoro technique, okay, where you would, it's actually an app that you can put on your phone, and the Pomodoro technique is where you work for 25 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break, and work for another 25 minutes and a 5-minute break, because some people tend to need that. A teacher that was in my course this week was talking about how she established very clear boundaries with her students and her families this year on when she would look at emails, or when she would open up a certain part of her in all of the different message centers that she had in their electronic register. If there were certain communications, she told them, I will open that particular account or that box at 8 a.m. every morning. So parents, if they were sending something at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night, the teacher had been very clear. And so she was not responsible for answering that parent right away. If you explain to people what those boundaries are, and it's clear, then they will also respect those boundaries and they relax. Interesting things happen. So as you can see, we are looking for realistic answers. I'm not looking for a magic wand this summer. I'm looking for you to really have the honest conversations with yourself. If you need to work on this with a colleague of yours, a life coach, a counselor, a psychologist, if you have a mentor in your school, reach out to whoever you need, because sometimes these difficulties we have are not always visible to us, or they're visible to us, but for some reason we cannot stop this. We can't break the habit, probably because of some deeper idea that we have of what makes us a good teacher or a good person. So that is one very important bit of homework that I would give teachers this summer in order to go back to school with better tools. Activity number 2 is about imagining what your boundaries are and imagining them as a garden. Anyone who's done a course with me has probably reflected on this with me. I think it's something that we need to redo periodically, because our boundaries are always changing based on the moment we're living, the situation we're in, the context. For example, I think right now, if you are at the end of the year and feeling really particularly tired, you're going to have to be very conscious of what you can do and what you can't do. So I want you to get all the colored pencils and markers you have in your house. Do something that's actually very colorful. It's very mindful. You could even make a collage out of it. But the idea is that you would try to imagine a garden. And this garden has a nice little fence around it. And beyond your garden, there are other gardens, which are other people's gardens that also have a fence around them, their boundaries. Okay. So in this garden, we have a gate, and the gate it can be opened or closed. It's a marvelous invention. We can actually invite people in if we want to, but on our conditions. So when I say to imagine this garden, in this garden, we are going to imagine what is inside of it, what plants, what flowers, what furniture, if we want a fire pit, if we want a place to make a brick oven to make pizza, whatever you want. But in that garden, I want you to write what is possible for me, what I can do, meaning what I am able to do physically, mentally, what I've been trained to do, okay? What I need in order to be okay in this garden. And what is okay? What is acceptable for me? And that's probably having to do with certain behaviors, certain ways that people communicate. Think about that. Write it all down. It'll take you a while. It'll take you probably, if you do it and really think about it, it'll take about 15 minutes, 20 minutes to really think about it. And then outside of your garden gate, you are going to write the things that are outside of your garden. It doesn't mean that they're totally unacceptable, but it means that you really need to be careful with these things. What is outside your gate, your fence, would be what is not possible for me, what I cannot do, what I don't know how to do. And it's being asked of me, but I don't know how to do it. And what is not okay with me. When you have identified some of these things, you can then take the next step to learn about assertive communication. Assertive communication is then how we communicate with the other people who might be kicking in our fence and running into our garden, and they're moving our plants, and they're saying, I hope you don't mind, I moved a couple of them because I think they look prettier over there. Or they start, jumping around, or they're breaking things, and nobody invited them in. They come in, they start giving you a lot of advice, or they start yelling at you. Okay. We need to learn how to accompany that person to our garden gate and say, thank you for visiting. You can wait out here. And this is where assertive communication comes into play. If you are interested in knowing more about that, you can read Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. It's an excellent, excellent book for any educator to read in understanding how do I explain what my needs, my emotions are in a way that respects me and respects others. Okay. Then something that we can do right now, and let's do it in the comment section. Okay. All of you who are watching, are you feeling brave? You want to do this with me? We're going to do a really simple exercise called 3 good things. Okay. 3 good things. So in this exercise, every day, you will keep some paper by your bed, or you'll have a notebook or whatever it is, and you're going to write 3 good things that happened to you. I know it seems really silly, but it's a way to focus on the positive. Our brain very naturally tends to focus on the negative. This is why the news is so horrible, because journalists know that we are much more apt to open bad news, some terrible headline, than we are to click on something that's good news. We are attracted to the negative, probably because we want to avoid, it's sort of like, when you read children's fairy tales, okay? Can we talk about these fairy tales where the mother dies and they're poisoned and then they're trying to kill her and, all these terrible children that are abandoned in the woods. I mean, what are we doing? But it's because it speaks to something in all of our most unconscious fears, and somehow seeing what disasters are happening. It's like we're trying to protect ourselves. We're trying to emotionally prepare for the worst thing that could happen to us. Okay, that's fine. That is our neurobiology, but we can sometimes get really fixated on that. And when we're really fixated on that, it's something that has a bad effect. It trickles down into our bodies. So then we're seeing danger everywhere. We have this heightened sense of anxiety. We can feel hopeless. And in some of my other videos, I talk a lot about learned hopefulness. And so gratitude and learned hopefulness, if we exercise this regularly, this actually increases our feeling of life being worth living, because it is worth living, but we have to train our eye to look for it. So we're going to take this paper, and I would like for each one of you to write in the chat box 3 good things that happened to you today. Now, for me, what happened to me today? Well, the 3 good things that happened is I went to the dentist and I got a good checkup. It hurt a little bit, but it was a good checkup. And so that was good. And then my number 2 good thing that happened today was my little dog got shampooed and groomed, and she smells so good and she's so adorable, and I can't stop looking at her. And it just makes me happy just to look at her and to pet her. It's a delight. And taking pictures of her, and it makes me happy. And then the 3rd thing, the good thing that happened today, and I hope that you'll share what happened to you, was that I'm working with this wonderful group at Europass, and we did a fantastic activity together today on boundaries. And even more, what made my day so happy was the way that this group listened and supported each other as they talked about some of the difficult things that they were navigating in their schools this year. And these people just met 2 days ago. They'd never seen each other before. And here they are having this amazing human experience of sharing and supporting and holding space for people who are allowing themselves to be vulnerable about what their difficulties have been. I mean, it's just beautiful. How about you? Oh my goodness. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Dean Sir, saying nothing good happened today, but I don't want to contradict you, but I do want to say that maybe something very small happened that made you smile. And if it didn't, the day is not over. Okay. And I'm with you. I'm here with you, and I feel your pain, because that is not a nice way to feel. Anyone else? I see that Evita is with us. She's watching. Evita, what good things happened to you today? How about Marta? Did anything good happen today? Let me know. The reason why I'm talking about this activity is that there is research, and I've put it in the chat box. It's a YouTube video by a really wonderful woman who is a therapist, and she has this whole YouTube channel called Therapy in a Nutshell. It's like she just teaches us so much about our well-being. It's all free. And she talks about this particular activity and the research behind it. And the research behind it actually shows that if you were to do this, to purposely look for something good that happened, 3 things in that day, if you do this every day for 14 days, you already experience greater well-being and less of that sense of burnout. The research actually showed that this is a feeling that can last for a while. So it doesn't cost anything. Why not give it a try? Maybe you could do this with another colleague, and you could kind of keep yourselves accountable. Like it's sort of like when you decide you're going to start running or you're going to go to the gym and you want a friend to go with you, because if not, you'll just stay on the couch. It can be the same thing for your well-being. Evita wrote that one of the best things that she had that happened today was a good conversation with her son. I'm so glad, Evita. And you're starting aqua aerobics today. That is the best in the summertime. I've done that before. It was fantastic. I knew you would find something positive, Evita. And so I realized that it's not so easy. We're not used to thinking of things like this, but these activities of thinking about what your stressors are, thinking about what your boundaries are, and what is possible and what is not possible, and what steps you can take to communicate that to the people who are maybe asking a lot of you, and just trying to do some of these activities that are particularly mindful of the positive. Speaking of mindful, all right, I also know that we all have our moments. Let's say we have these moments where we feel where things happen that we're not so proud of. Sometimes we were afraid to take a risk. So we don't feel that we were very brave. Maybe we made a mistake. Maybe we sent the wrong email. We uploaded the wrong document and we had to answer 57 messages instead of having our nice lunch. Okay. These things happen. And maybe you were not able to accomplish something that you promised and you feel like you disappointed someone. This is part of it too. Okay. So we all have these moments and they're part of our humanness. And the more we can also be kind to ourselves and speak kindly to ourselves when we make these mistakes, the kinder we will also, we will be able to find more kindness also towards other people's mistakes. And let's say that it will lessen some of those symptoms that we might have. It seems so simple, but it really does work. And so as to kind of complete our talk, I see that Debbie also wrote, the 3 wonderful things that happened. Debbie, thank you for sharing, is dancing with her pupils. And she had a good evaluation on her teaching methods, and she heard some good music. So it can be as simple as that. Debbie, thank you so much for that. It made me smile just imagining those are good things that happened, and they're good things that you made happen. So right now, I'd like to do a little mindfulness moment with you. Mindfulness, as you know, is thought to be a way of bringing non-judgmental attention to the present state. So I'm just going to ask you, as you're watching, you're probably doing other things, but if you can, take a moment to stand still or sit, but really feel your feet on the ground. Feel the contact of your feet on the ground and the energy that's there, right? And, try to maybe put your hands resting on your legs with your shoulders relaxed. And I'd like to share this affirmation that I was thinking of when I was thinking of myself, thinking of all of you, and what we might need as a kind of as an affirmation going into the summer. Okay. So I'm going to read it to you. This year. So right now we're going to just focus on this. Okay. This year has been full of challenges and emotions. Right here, right now, I appreciate myself as I am. I value myself as a human being. I am at peace with myself. I feel proud of how I'm facing the challenges of this year. And I forgive myself for my mistakes. I treasure the lessons that I have learned. And I know, even though it's hard, that I am doing the best that I can. And while you're listening to me now, continue to relax. Just focus on my words and on the contact with the floor as you gently breathe in and out. I feel good about myself. I accept myself as I am. I am good enough. I have done what is possible in the moment I am living with the resources that I have. And now I make some time for myself. And I deserve to take this time. We all deserve to take this time. Me, my colleagues, my students, families, our entire school community. We are all right, just as we are. Okay? If you ever need to be reminded of that, you can come back to this video. I also we put in the comment section a really wonderful website, mindful.org, that is full of daily mindfulness practices that you can do. It is truly mindfulness when practiced with consistency, changes the circuitry in our brains. And if you're interested in knowing more about mindfulness and how to bring it in more into your life and into your school, you can sign up for our webinar. That's just costs €6.99 with Marta Mandolini tomorrow night here at the Europass Academy Facebook page. You can sign up here. And it's a webinar that is going to, tomorrow, June 10th at 6 p.m. Central European Time. And this webinar will guide you through various mindfulness practices and give you valuable tips on how you can incorporate it into your life and then also into your school life. This is good for us. And if you're also interested in knowing a bit more about how to bring more social and emotional intelligence to your school, because as we know, these are soft skills that are not only necessary, that job recruiters are looking for people with these skills. It's because we want to have a good life. And having a lot of knowledge and being very cognitively full is a wonderful thing until then you run into some type of a problem and then you fall apart. And all of that knowledge doesn't help you, but self-knowledge will. And so if you're interested in knowing more about social and emotional intelligence and bringing it into your teaching practice, I will also be guiding a webinar here at Europass Teacher Academy on Monday, June 28th at 4:30 p.m. Central European Time. And there is a small cost to it. And if you can't watch the webinar live, you will be sent a recording of it, and it will be 8 steps to social and emotional learning, otherwise known as SEL, in your school. Summertime is always a great time to reflect upon our practice, but first and foremost, it's a great time to really take care of yourselves. Not just, it's great to be in the mountains, it's great to be on the beach, but let's try to actually work on taking better care of ourselves in a consistent way. I'm so glad that you are here with me today. Your time is precious, and I appreciate it. We will be back next week with one of our interviews. But today, I just wanted to be here on my own to celebrate you, to applaud you and everything you are doing, and thank you for the incredible service and work that you are doing for the adults of tomorrow. Thank you so much for being here with me. And I send you all my best. You can write to me, continue writing in the chat, in the comment section about how you're going to take care of yourself this summer. Bye-bye.